Today we have a local product here, Connor Cower from Seneca Valley High School. Connor, how are you?
What's
Doing
up,
good, man.
Connor?
How's it going, Ryan?
Little background on Connor here. He went to Seneca Valley High School, pursued his collegiate baseball at Virginia Tech, and now is currently in the St. Louis Cardinals organization. Connor, we never played together, but Cardinals, they must have some great taste in players, right?
Yeah, particularly the good-looking ones, I'll be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, today it's great to have you on. We got to really get to know Connor through this past year, and got a great story on where he's at today, and really interested to hear it. So, first question, going to lead into being a high school to college baseball. One, was baseball always kind of a dream for you? And two, what was that draft process like? In 2018, Connor got drafted in the 26th round by the St. Louis Cardinals.
So overall, like baseball was always something that I just kind of did because I enjoyed the competition. I enjoyed time with teammates. It was always that. Like I did travel ball through a young age, and then high school was still just like I was just trying to make the team basically my sophomore through junior year, and then had a good campaign my junior year, and that's when I realized, after getting some talk from colleges, I realized that I could actually play this, beyond just the high school level. College, again, I always had the kind of the idea that school came first and baseball was always second. And then you have to learn to balance that, as I'm sure you know. Because sometimes baseball does have to come first in some aspects, most times.
Sure.
And the draft was really never on my mind. I was relatively unsuccessful my freshman sophomore year, and then I had a good junior year again. And then senior year I did even better. And then all of a sudden, the call came, and I figured, might as well. You have to chase the dream, keep going with it. Baseball has always been, my first passion. So I was like, I don't care if I go first round or 40th round. I want to at least get a shot at it just to say I did and see where it goes.
You were an all-around player up until college. Like, didn't you, as a junior in high school, correct me if I'm wrong, did you win Whitfield Pitcher of the Year?
Yeah, it was my junior year. I was the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette Player of the Year, and then the Whitfield Pitcher of the Year.
So then going into college, when you had a very successful pitching career, you were a starter and a reliever. Did you start off as a reliever and then became a starter?
I was a starter in high school and all through that. And then, as you know, when you get to college, a lot of the starters are juniors and seniors, right? They've earned their stripes. So they transitioned me to the bullpen my freshman year, and I was exclusively out of the pen my freshman year. I got about, I think, like 25 innings or something like that.
Sure.
And my sophomore year was about half and half. I had relief on the weekends, and then I would do the midweek starts. So again, you would go midweek starts, like 3-4 innings just to. And then my year was, I had like a week and a half where I was doing midweek starts and then relief once or twice on weekends for like a week, and then they moved me right to starter, and then starter was my senior year entirely.
And then going into pro ball, similar situation, kind of started off as a reliever, did some starts here and there, or what do you got going on now?
They had me entirely as a starter. I was drafted as a starting pitcher. And then my first year, they wanted to work the starting guys. Like, they already had their 5 guys on the rookie ball team. That was like me and 4 other guys. I'm still slated as a starter. Like, I talked to a couple of the guys who were beginning of spring training, and they had me lined up to start games. All my pen, my condition, all that was for a starter. But just last year, because of my injury, they had me as a reliever because they didn't want to jump me right into doing 5 or 6 innings. They wanted me to limit me to 1 or 2 at a time.
Yeah. So what's your – you have so many kids in high school that go to college. In high school, they were their team's ace, right? They're the best pitcher. And then they go to college, and even in high school altogether still, they come to us. We work with them. They say they want me to, come out of the bullpen and this and that, and it's different. What's your advice, someone who's done both for a long time now? You got to kind of try and treat it the same, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, the mindset has to be the same. I personally like starting. Everyone has their preference, and coming out of the pen in certain situations is no fun. There's a breed of guys that can come into a tight jam and get out of it. That's one. That's why they're really sought after in the MLB, especially.
Sure.
I personally like starting, but again, the mindset has to be the same. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's a start, the one thing that's beneficial about a bullpen is coming out of the pen is you have about 10 minutes to think about it before you're out in the mound. I mean,
Exactly.
real quick, especially in pro ball. I mean, and in college, but it seems like it's all like there's a great scheme and a plan and everything. A lot of times it's just a call down and it's like, hey, get Coward going. Like,
get them going. And it's so different because as a starter, being a starter, you can have this long 45-minute warm up of, routine. I listen to this song, I do this, I do these stretches. But as a reliever, it's like, hey, you have literally 3 minutes, get ready and let's go.
That's something that I wasn't used to, and that college, especially my freshman, sophomore year, helped me kind of, overcome that weird feeling of not
different.
really, but you're in. You know what I mean?
One thing to touch on for the viewers out there, kind of give a little bit of background on Connor's past 2 years in professional baseball. First year, he had a total of 41 innings pitched and a 0.88 ERA. And then his last year, unfortunately, which is going to lead me into my question here, was a little bit injured. But last year in 22.1 innings pitched had a 1.61 ERA. So my question is leading into, one, through that injury, kind of what was your mindset process? And two, getting back from the injury, what was that process? Were you a little bit timid at all, or were you knew like I'm healed up and I can let it rip?
I would say that last year's injury, like I've had the same injury reoccurring, obviously in different ways, but it's in the same area. Last year's was easily the hardest of the 3 incidents I've had. Like there was a certain checkoff list of things the Cardinals had me do, so I couldn't even show back up to the facility and do workouts and throw until I met certain criteria. I had to have the same amount of like flexion. Like I had to be able to bend and move the same way I did before I was injured. There was a bunch of things they checked off. So when I had done all that and I actually improved on some of them from the training, getting healthy, I knew that, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm just as good, if not better than I was before I was injured.
Now, highlight one point that you said that I think it's really important for younger pitchers, players, anyone who's injured to hear is to hear the process of how professional organizations go about it, where there's no rushing back. It's, listen, man, like if you're not 100%, we're not risking it. Like get yourself healthy, make sure you're ready to put yourself back on that field, instead of a lot of young pitchers are like, oh, I'm 80%, but I can go out there. It's like, no, man, it's not worth it in the long run. Get yourself healthy and be able to put yourself in your best position to help yourself out and help your team out.
Especially someone in my position, like I wasn't a first-round draft pick. Like there's no halfway with injuries, which is frustrating because some days you wake up and you feel great. You want to go run a mile, or you want to go work out and lift heavy, or you want to go throw as hard as you can, but you can't.
Something I was going to ask you, Connor. So we got to know you a lot better this past off season, and we've seen basically how well you can work with kids and how well you can actually teach what you do and execute it to basically the youth. What kind of advice can you give to these kids like right now that don't, have a lot going on with baseball?
You need to develop an attitude of like non-complacency. You know what I mean? Like took me probably until my like sophomore, junior year of college. Like it takes some people like a lot later, a lot earlier. And every day you wake up, and if you don't do something, whether it's a workout, whether it's running, whether it's throwing a pen or taking BP or something like that, if you wake up and you don't do that for a day, you feel terrible. You know what I mean? That throws you off your rhythm. I couldn't go more than 2 or 3 days without doing something. Like it would just drive me crazy. And I think that's something that high level athletes, whether it's in any sport, that have that drive of like, I can't just sit around and be complacent, especially for younger kids. Like I worked with, a lot of young athletes. One that comes to mind is Jake. What's up, Jake? If you're watching this, and he had that, like, I want to go and throw more. Like he would ask me like, hey, let's throw a little bit more after. And it was a good thing for me to be able to tell him like, hey, no, we're done. You did your work, but like he was still jumping at the bit, which is something that a young athlete, they don't always have. It takes years for people to develop that like really anxious, hungry, get after it attitude.
Well, Connor, we appreciate you having on. Viewers, like Ryan said, we'll be tagging him in this to follow him through, give him a follow, be following him through his professional career whenever he's able to get back out on the field. So appreciate you having you on, Connor.